morning. Thank you, Kayla, for that lovely introduction and for your leadership. What about Cheryl Lee Ralph? Is she fabulous or what? Is everybody having a great summit? You know, don't you love it when you throw a party and all of your favorite people show up? Well, that's what's happening here this week. We're throwing a party to celebrate equality, to celebrate our past and present successes, and just as importantly, to plan our future together. And you all showed up. As Woody Allen said, 80% of success is just showing up. And have you shown up? You've shown up from organizations as varied as Intuit and the FBI. You have shown up in teams of one and in teams of hundreds, all in the name of equality. You've shown up as members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. You've shown up as allies. You've shown up as sponsors and as someone who hopes to sponsor us in the future, and I promise we'll make that very painless for you. You've shown up in every way here this week as a true leaders in our struggle for equality. You know, when we first began our Out and Equal Workplace Summits in 1999, we had a small but vocal gathering of just under 200 people. Now, thanks to the work all of you are doing inside your organizations, this morning we have 2,481 attendees at the 2010 Workplace Summit. Record-breaking Los Angeles. We have organizations that sent scores of people like Accenture, Wells Fargo, and Deloitte. Companies showing the depth and breadth of their commitment to equality. We have organizations who are finalists in this year's Out and Equal Workplace Excellence Award, like Aetna, Cisco, Ernst & Young, and IBM. We have companies like our wonderful presenting sponsors, Deloitte and Hewlett-Packard, along with our titanium sponsors, Paul Hastings, Intuit, and Xerox. And again, a big thank you to Intuit for sponsoring today's plenary. We could not do this important, incredible work without you and all of our generous sponsors. Thank you so much. You know, I thought a lot about this notion of showing up this past July when my partner Cynthia and I had the privilege of attending EuroPride in Warsaw. Warsaw, where for the past 5 years the President of Poland has outlawed Pride celebrations by presidential order, and where both the local police and the Army were called upon to prevent any kind of gathering of the LGBT community. Well, here Cynthia and I were in 2010, marching down a street in the middle of Warsaw with 8,000 of our closest friends. The 2010 Warsaw Pride celebration happened because a number of courageous and committed European leaders showed up on behalf of the LGBT community throughout Poland. They filed a lawsuit with the European Court of Human Rights to put pressure on the Polish government, and the rest, as they say, is history. So 8,000 of us from around Europe and around the world showed up to celebrate Pride in Warsaw. We were flanked, yeah, that was pretty. We were flanked by over 2,000 police officers, the same police officers who just last year were physically breaking up any kind of Pride events. This year we're showing up to ensure our safety. Well, I saw the power of showing up on the face of a little 10-year-old girl who caught my eye as I was smiling and waving as we walked down the center of Warsaw. She kind of looked back and looked up at her mother to see if it was okay if she smiled and waved back. Her mother also smiled and nodded and both waved. I saw it on the faces of a couple visiting Warsaw from Clearwater, Florida, who had heard about the march and just wanted to come out and show their support. I saw it on the power of showing up on the face of Andrea Setak from IBM as we marched arm in arm along the parade route. Andreas grew up in Poland and left 25 years ago because he is gay. Now he had come home with his partner and his IBM colleagues, and his face showed infinite relief and happiness and pride. Cynthia and I and the other 8,000 marchers showed up that day in Warsaw. We showed up not only for ourselves, but for all our LGBT brothers and sisters who can't yet show up, whether they live a world away or half a block away, right there in Warsaw. So again, I just want to thank you for showing up this week on behalf of those who need our support around the world. One of my favorite quotes from Audre Lorde is, "Your silence will not protect you." There are so many moments when showing up is exactly what helps move the LGBT cause forward. And then there are also times when speaking up on behalf of equality is needed to make a difference. We've learned this lesson from the previous leaders of our movement, like Del Martin, Bayard Rustin, Lee Brewster, Lou Sullivan, Fritz Klein, and Harry Hay. Courageously speaking up about LGBT equality and its role in all of our organizations is what all of you are doing each and every day to make a difference in your organizations and in your communities and in the world. We also need to share the stories of those courageous enough to speak up on behalf of equality, and sometimes these stories come from the most unlikely of places, like a grade school in Arkansas. Just 4 weeks after last year's summit, we heard about 10-year-old Will Phillips. It seems Will had decided one November morning that he just wasn't going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance with his classmates. He said, "I really looked at the end where it says liberty and justice for all and realized there isn't liberty and justice for all. Gay and lesbian people can't get married, and there's clearly still sexism and clearly still racism." Will wanted to speak up, and speak up he did. He spoke up on CNN, on Ellen, on the Today Show. Will spoke up on behalf of equality. And now, more than ever, it's important that people like Will and teachers, students, and parents everywhere speak up on behalf of all LGBT people, to speak up against the bullying we have seen, the horrific ramifications of these past few weeks. We all have to speak up. Thank you. After last year's summit, Kayla Schell and Daniel Brennan from Dell set up a meeting with their CEO to share what they learned at the summit and how Dell could continue to find ways to move LGBT equality forward. During the conversation, one of Michael Dell's questions was about the acronym LGBT. Kayla explained that many people kind of lump us all together as gay, but there are people in our community who don't really identify as gay. There are lesbians, bisexual people, transgendered people, as well as gay men.